John was a normal man who lived in a small town. He had a normal job, a normal house, and a normal life. But one day, something very strange happened to John. It was a Saturday morning and John was walking to the store to buy some milk. The sun was shining and the birds were singing. It seemed like it would be a nice, normal day. On his way to the store, John saw an old woman standing on the sidewalk. She looked very odd. She wore a long black dress and held a wooden cane. Her face was covered with wrinkles, and she had bright blue eyes that sparkled. As John walked by, the old woman raised her cane and pointed it at him. She spoke in a low, croaky voice. "You, young man," she said, "today is a special day for you." John stopped and looked at the woman. He was confused. He had never seen this woman before. Why was she talking to him? "I'm sorry, do I know you?" John asked. The old woman laughed. It was a strange laugh that made John feel uncomfortable. "No, you don't know me," said the old woman. "But I know you. I know today is the day your life will change." John didn't know what to say. He started to walk away, but the old woman called out to him again. "Wait, take this." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small silver key. John took the key and looked at it closely. It looked very old and was covered in strange markings. "What is this?" he asked. "What does it open?" The old woman smiled. "That is for you to find out," she said. "But I will tell you this. That key will unlock a door to a new life. A life filled with magic and wonder, but also a life filled with danger and adventure. It is up to you to decide if you want to open that door." With those final words, the old woman turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. John stood there for a moment, staring at the key in his hand. He didn't know what to think. Part of him wanted to throw the key away and forget about the strange old woman. But another part of him was curious. What if she was telling the truth? What if this key really could change his life? John put the key in his pocket and continued on to the store. He bought his milk and went home, but he couldn't stop thinking about the key and the old woman's words. Over the next few days, John took out the key many times and looked at it. He wondered what it could possibly open. He thought about throwing it away, but something stopped him each time. A week later, John was walking through the park near his house. As he walked, he noticed an old rusty gate hidden behind some trees. He had passed by this spot many times before, but had never really paid attention to the gate. But now, for some reason, he felt drawn to it. John walked up to the gate and saw that it had a small keyhole. His heart started to beat faster. Could this be the door the old woman was talking about? John slowly took out the silver key and pushed it into the lock. He turned it. End of part 1. 560 words. The key turned easily in the lock, and with a loud click, the gate unlocked. John held his breath as he slowly pushed the gate open. It creaked loudly as it swung forward. Beyond the gate was a sight John could hardly believe. Instead of the rest of the park he expected to see, he was looking at a lush green forest that seemed to stretch on forever. The trees were taller than any John had ever seen, and their leaves shimmered in the sunlight. John stepped through the gate into this strange new world. The air smelled sweet, like honey and wildflowers. He could hear the sound of birds singing and a gentle breeze blowing through the leaves. As John walked deeper into the forest, he noticed something else strange. There were small, glowing lights floating in the air. They looked like fireflies, but John could tell they were something else, something magical. Suddenly, John heard a twig snap behind him. He spun around and saw a creature step out from behind a tree. It was about the size of a cat, with green fur, big ears, and bright yellow eyes. John had never seen an animal like it before. "Hello," said the creature, in a high-pitched voice. "Welcome to the enchanted forest." John's eyes widened in surprise. He couldn't believe the creature could talk. Who are you?" he asked. "I am Finn, a forest sprite," said the creature. "I guard the entrance to this magical realm. You must be the one the old woman told us about." The old woman? John asked. You know her? Finn nodded. She is a powerful sorceress. She has the gift of sight and can tell when someone is destined for greatness. She must have seen something special in you. John didn't know what to say. He certainly didn't feel special. He was just a normal guy from a small town. What greatness could he possibly be destined for? Come, said Finn. Let me show you around the enchanted forest. There is much for you to see and learn. John followed Finn deeper into the forest. The sprite showed him many wonders. Trees that could whisper secrets, flowers that could sing, and rivers that glowed with a magical light. As they walked, Finn told John about the enchanted forest. It was a place of great magic and power, but also a place in grave danger. An evil sorcerer named Malachi was trying to take over the forest, to bend its magic to his will and use it for his own wicked purposes. The creatures of the forest have been fighting against Malachi, said Finn. But our magic is not strong enough. We need a hero to help us defeat him. The old woman believes that hero is you, John. John was shocked. How could he be a hero? He had no magic, no special powers. He was just an ordinary man. But as he looked around at the beauty of the enchanted forest and thought about the evil that threatened it, John knew he had to try. He couldn't let Malachi destroy this magical place. I'll do it, John said. I'll help you fight Malachi. I don't know if I can be a hero, but I'll do my best. Finn smiled. That is all we can ask, he said. Come, let's start your training. You have a lot to learn if you're going to save the enchanted forest. And so John's adventure began. Little did he know the challenges and dangers that lay ahead, or the incredible magic he would discover within himself. But one thing was certain. His life would never be ordinary again. End of part 2. 640 words, total 1,200 words. Over the next few weeks, John trained with Finn and the other creatures of the enchanted forest. He learned how to navigate the twisting trails, how to speak with the trees and the animals, and how to harness the magic that flowed through every living thing. It wasn't easy. John often felt clumsy and foolish next to the graceful forest creatures. He would stumble over roots and get tangled in vines. His first attempts at magic usually ended in disaster, with exploding mushrooms and angry singed squirrels. But Finn was a patient teacher, and John was determined to learn. Slowly but surely, he began to improve. He could feel the magic growing stronger within him day by day. As John's skills grew, so did his confidence. He started to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could be the hero the enchanted forest needed. One sunny morning, Finn came to John with serious news. Malachi's forces have been spotted on the edge of the forest, the sprite said. They're getting ready to attack. We must prepare for battle. John felt a thrill of fear and excitement. This was it. This was his chance to prove himself, to save the enchanted forest from the evil sorcerer. He gathered with the other forest defenders, the brave knights, the wise sages, and the powerful magicians. Together, they planned their strategy and readied their weapons and spells. When Malachi's army attacked, the battle was fierce and chaotic. Dark magic crackled through the air. Tree giants hurled boulders. Brave knights clashed swords with shadowy monsters. John found himself in the thick of the fighting, casting spells and swinging his enchanted staff. He couldn't believe how far he had come from being just an ordinary man. But Malachi was powerful, and his dark forces were relentless. Inch by inch, they pushed the forest defenders back. Many brave creatures fell in battle. John began to feel the first stirrings of despair. Just when all seemed lost, John heard a voice calling his name. He turned and saw the old woman who had given him the silver key. She was standing at the edge of the battle, beckoning to him. John fought his way to her side. I don't think I can do this, he told her, his voice trembling. Malachi is too strong. I'm not a real hero. The old woman smiled. You are more of a hero than you know, John, she said. You have the heart of a true champion. But you're right, Malachi is too powerful to defeat alone. You need to find the Scepter of Light." "The Scepter of Light?" John asked. "What is that?" The old woman pointed to a distant mountain. "At the top of Mount Destiny lies the Cavern of Trials. Inside, you will find the Scepter of Light, the most powerful artifact in the enchanted forest. Only the true hero can wield it. With the scepter, you will have the power to defeat Malachi." "But how do I get to Mount Destiny?" John asked. "You must leave the battle and make the journey alone," said the old woman. "It will be perilous, filled with challenges that will test your courage, your wit, and your heart. But I believe in you, John. I know you can do it." John took a deep breath. He looked back at the battle raging behind him, at his friends fighting and falling. He knew what he had to do. "I'll find the scepter," he said to the old woman. "I won't let the enchanted forest down." With one last look at the battle, John turned and ran into the forest, heading for Mount Destiny and the greatest challenge of his life. Part 3, 680 words, total 1880 words. John's journey to Mount Destiny was filled with danger and adventure. He crossed raging rivers, climbed steep cliffs, and fought off terrible monsters. But he also made new friends along the way: a wise old turtle, a brave eagle, and a mischievous pixie who helped him and guided him. After many days of hard travel, John finally reached the top of Mount Destiny. There, carved into the mountainside, was the entrance to the Cavern of Trials. John stepped inside and found himself in a vast, echoing chamber. The walls were covered in glowing crystals that pulsed with magical light. In the center of the room, on a high pedestal, sat the Scepter of Light. As John approached the scepter, he heard a booming voice. "Halt," it said. "Only the true hero may claim the Scepter of Light. You must prove your worth by facing the 3 trials." Suddenly, 3 doors appeared in the cavern walls. Above each door was a symbol: a flame, a wave, and a wind. "Choose your path," said the voice. "But beware, each trial will test you to your limits." John thought carefully, then stepped towards the door with the flame symbol. He took a deep breath and walked through. Instantly, he found himself in a room filled with fire. Flames licked at his clothes and smoke stung his eyes. Through the haze, John saw the Scepter of Light on a pedestal, surrounded by a ring of fire. John knew he had to be brave. He focused his magic and created a shield around himself. Then, step by step, he walked through the flames towards the scepter. The heat was intense, and John could feel his shield weakening. But he kept going, driven by his courage and his desire to save the enchanted forest. At last, he reached the scepter and grasped it in his hand. Instantly, the flames disappeared and John found himself back in the main cavern. The voice spoke again. "You have passed the trial of courage, but 2 trials remain." John faced the trial of wisdom, where he had to solve a series of riddles, and the trial of heart, where he had to make a difficult sacrifice. Each trial was harder than the last, pushing John to the very limits of his abilities. But John's experiences in the enchanted forest had changed him. He was no longer the ordinary man he had once been. He was a hero, brave and wise, and compassionate. At last, John emerged from the Cavern of Trials, holding the Scepter of Light high. He had passed all 3 trials and proven himself worthy. Without hesitation, John raced back to the battlefield where his friends were fighting. With the power of the scepter, he joined the fray, turning the tide against Malachi's forces. In a final, epic confrontation, John faced Malachi himself. The evil sorcerer was strong, but John was stronger. With a blast of pure, radiant light from the scepter, John defeated Malachi once and for all. A great cheer went up from the creatures of the enchanted forest. They had won. The forest was saved, thanks to John's heroism. In the days that followed, there was much celebration and rejoicing. John was hailed as a true hero by all. The old woman who had given him the silver key came to him and smiled. "I knew you had it in you," she said. "You have saved the enchanted forest and proven yourself a true champion. Your story will be told for generations." John smiled back, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. He knew his life would never be the same. He had found his purpose, his calling. And as he looked out over the beautiful, magical forest that he had helped to save, John knew that whatever adventures lay ahead, he would always be ready to face them. For he was a hero, and that's what heroes do. The end. Part 4, 770 words. Total story 2650 words. Years passed, and the tale of John's heroic journey spread far and wide. People came from distant lands to see the enchanted forest and to meet the legendary hero who had saved it. John became a wise and benevolent leader, guiding the creatures of the forest with the same courage and compassion he had shown during his adventures. He taught others the ways of magic and encouraged them to always stand up for what is right. Under John's guidance, the enchanted forest thrived. The trees grew taller, the flowers bloomed brighter, and the animals lived in harmony. It was said that the forest had never been more beautiful or more filled with magic. As John grew older, he knew it was time to pass on his wisdom to a new generation. He chose a young girl named Sarah as his apprentice. Sarah was much like John had been, brave, kind, and full of potential. John taught Sarah everything he knew. He showed her how to communicate with the creatures of the forest, how to harness the power of magic, and most importantly, how to be a true hero. Years later, when John was very old, he knew his time had come. He called Sarah to his side and gave her the silver key, the same one that had started his own journey so many years ago. "It's your turn now," John said with a smile. "The enchanted forest will need a new hero. I know you will be great." Sarah took the key, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. I won't let you down." John closed his eyes, at peace. He had lived a full life, filled with adventure, magic, and purpose. He had made a difference in the world. As Sarah left to start her own journey, she thought about all that John had taught her. She knew that being a hero wasn't about having special powers or defeating monsters. It was about standing up for what you believe in, helping others, and never giving up, even when things seem impossible. She clutched the silver key, feeling its magic pulse in her hand. She didn't know what adventures awaited her, but she was ready to face them. For she was Sarah, apprentice to the great hero John. And like her mentor, she would protect the enchanted forest and spread the magic of courage, wisdom, and compassion throughout the land. As Sarah stepped into the forest, a gentle breeze blew through the trees. If you listened carefully, you could almost hear it whispering the name of the enchanted forest's greatest hero, John. His legacy would live on, in the magic of the forest and in the hearts of all those he had touched. And though he was gone, his spirit would always be a part of the enchanted forest. For that is the power of true heroism. It echoes through time, inspiring others to be brave, to be kind, and to always believe in the magic within themselves. So ends the tale of John, the hero of the enchanted forest. But his story and the lessons he taught will live on forever. The end. Part 5, 560 words. Total story 3210 words. Sarah's journey as the new guardian of the enchanted forest was filled with its own set of challenges and adventures. Like John before her, she faced many trials that tested her courage, wisdom, and heart. One of her greatest challenges came when a powerful dragon threatened the forest. The dragon, known as Embers, had been awakened from a long slumber and was angry and confused. It breathed fire upon the trees and sent the animals scurrying in fear. Sarah knew she had to do something. She bravely approached the dragon, the silver key that John had given her clutched tightly in her hand. "Please," Sarah said softly to the dragon. "I don't want to hurt you. I know you're frightened, but this forest is our home. We can live together in peace." Embers growled, smoke billowing from its nostrils. But as it looked into Sarah's kind, steadfast eyes, it saw something that made it pause. Slowly, amazingly, the dragon lowered its head. Sarah reached out and gently touched its scaly nose. A understanding seemed to pass between them. From that day on, Embers became a protector of the enchanted forest rather than a threat. It used its fire to warm the creatures in the winter and to light the way through the darkest parts of the forest. Sarah's kindness and understanding had turned an enemy into a friend. It was a powerful lesson, one that she would carry with her always. As the years passed, Sarah grew into a wise and compassionate leader, just as John had been. She continued to study magic and to learn from the creatures of the forest. One day, as Sarah was meditating by the bubbling brook that ran through the heart of the forest, she had a vision. In it, she saw a young boy, lost and alone in a far-off land. Sarah knew immediately that this boy was important. She could sense that he had a great destiny, just as she and John had. Without hesitation, Sarah set off on a journey to find the boy. She traveled for many days and nights, guided by the magic of the silver key. When she finally found the boy, he was huddled in a cave, shivering from cold and fear. Sarah approached him gently, offering him food and warm clothing. "Don't be afraid," she said. "I'm here to help you." The boy looked at her with wide, hopeful eyes. "Who are you?" he asked. Sarah smiled. "I'm Sarah," she said. "I come from a magical place called the Enchanted Forest, and I believe you have a very special destiny." She told the boy the stories of the Enchanted Forest, of John's heroism, and her own adventures. The boy listened, enraptured. "I think you're meant to come with me," Sarah said, "to learn the ways of magic and to become a guardian of the Enchanted Forest, just as I am." The boy's eyes shone with excitement. "Really?" he said. "You think I could be a hero like you and John?" "I know you can," Sarah said, "because I see in you the same bravery, wisdom, and kindness that John saw in me." And so, hand in hand, Sarah and the boy began the long journey back to the Enchanted Forest. Sarah knew that she had found her own apprentice, just as John had found her. The cycle continued. The magic and wisdom of the Enchanted Forest passed down from generation to generation. And though the challenges they faced were always changing, one thing remained constant: the power of courage, compassion, and the unbreakable bonds of mentorship and friendship. As they walked into the warm, welcoming light of the Enchanted Forest, Sarah smiled. The forest was in good hands and would be for generations to come. Part 6, 710 words. Total story 3920 words. Years turned into decades, and Sarah's young apprentice, whose name was Liam, grew into a strong, wise, and compassionate young man. Under Sarah's guidance, he learned the ways of magic and the importance of protecting the Enchanted Forest. As Liam's powers grew, so did his understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. He could feel the life force pulsing through every tree, every flower, every creature in the forest. It was a deep, abiding connection that filled him with a sense of purpose and responsibility. One summer evening, as Liam was walking through the forest, he heard a faint cry. Following the sound, he discovered a small, injured fox kid. The young fox's leg was trapped in a hunter's snare, and it was crying out in pain and fear. Liam's heart ached for the poor creature. He carefully freed the kid's leg from the snare and cradled it in his arms. Using the healing magic Sarah had taught him, Liam mended the fox's wound. But Liam knew that the fox was just one of many creatures threatened by the growing presence of humans near the Enchanted Forest. He had seen the signs: trees cut down, rivers polluted, animals driven from their homes. Liam brought his concerns to Sarah, who listened with a heavy heart. She knew that the time had come for the guardians of the Enchanted Forest to extend their protection beyond the forest's boundaries. Together, Liam and Sarah began to reach out to the human communities surrounding the forest. They showed them the beauty and magic of the natural world and taught them ways to live in harmony with it. It was not an easy task. Some humans were distrustful, others were resistant to change. But Liam and Sarah persevered, guided by their belief in the power of understanding and compassion. Slowly, things began to change. Farmers began to use sustainable methods that preserved the health of the soil and water. Hunters learned to take only what they needed and to respect the delicate balance of nature. Children were taught to marvel at the wonders of the forest and to protect them. And as the human world started to change, something amazing happened. The magic of the enchanted forest began to spread. Gardens bloomed in the most unexpected places, bird songs filled the air in the heart of cities, and people began to feel a deeper connection to the earth and to each other. Liam and Sarah watched this transformation with joy and amazement. They knew that this was the true power of the enchanted forest, not just to protect itself, but to heal the world around it. As Liam grew older and wiser, he took on more and more of the responsibilities of guardianship, and when the time came, just as Sarah had done for him, he chose an apprentice of his own, a bright, compassionate girl named Arya. Arya learned, just as Liam had, the ways of magic and the responsibility of stewardship, and when Liam's time came to step back, he did so with the knowledge that the enchanted forest was in good hands. For this was the way of things in the enchanted forest, and now, increasingly, in the world beyond. Knowledge passed from teacher to student, wisdom shared from generation to generation, and always at the heart of it all was the magic, the deep, abiding understanding of the ownness of all things. As Arya took her first steps as the new guardian, a gentle breeze stirred the leaves of the ancient trees, carrying with it the whispers of those who had come before: John, Sarah, Liam, and countless others. Their legacy lived on, in the eternal cycle of life, growth, and the enduring power of love for all living things. And so the story continues, as it always will, as long as there are those who believe in the magic of nature and the power of the human spirit to protect and nurture it. Part 7, 760, words, total story 4680 words. Arya grew into her role as the new guardian of the enchanted forest, guided by the wisdom of those who came before her. She continued the work of reaching out to the human world, teaching the ways of harmony and respect for nature. Under her guidance, the bond between the enchanted forest and the surrounding lands grew stronger. People came from far and wide to learn from Arya and to experience the magic of the forest. One day, a young man named Kai arrived at the edge of the forest. He was a traveler from a distant city, and he had heard stories of the enchanted forest and its guardians. Arya sensed something special about Kai. He had a deep curiosity and a gentle spirit. She invited him to stay and learn the ways of the forest. Kai was an eager student. He marveled at the magic of the forest, the way the trees seemed to whisper ancient secrets, the way the animals communicated with each other and with the guardians. Under Arya's tutelage, Kai's own magical abilities began to blossom. He discovered that he had a special gift for healing, both for the creatures of the forest and for the people who came seeking help. Years passed, and Kai became an integral part of the enchanted forest community. He and Arya worked side by side, guarding the forest and guiding others in the ways of magic and stewardship. But even as the enchanted forest thrived, dark clouds were gathering on the horizon. A powerful sorcerer, driven by greed and a lust for power, was making his way towards the forest. The sorcerer, whose name was Malachi, sought to harness the magic of the enchanted forest for his own dark purposes. He cared nothing for the delicate balance of nature or the well-being of the creatures who called the forest home. Arya and Kai knew they had to stop Malachi. They gathered all the guardians of the forest, past and present, and prepared for the battle ahead. The fight was long and difficult. Malachi was powerful, and his dark magic caused great damage to the forest. But the guardians were united and determined. They drew on the strength of their predecessors, on the love and magic that had been passed down through generations. In the end, it was Kai who faced Malachi in a final decisive battle. Drawing on all the wisdom and magic he had learned, Kai unleashed a powerful blast of healing energy. Malachi was overcome, his dark magic unraveling in the face of Kai's pure-hearted strength. With Malachi defeated, the enchanted forest began to heal. Arya and Kai led the way, using their magic to guide the regrowth and restoration. As the forest recovered, Arya knew it was time for another transition. She had sensed in Kai the same potential that Sarah had sensed in Liam, that Liam had sensed in her. Kai was ready to become the next guardian. In a simple but powerful ceremony, Arya passed the silver key to Kai, symbolically entrusting him with the care and protection of the enchanted forest. Kai accepted the responsibility with a solemn promise to cherish and protect the forest, to guide and teach the next generation, and to always remember the magic that connected all living things. And so the cycle continued, the magic of the enchanted forest passed down once again. For Arya, for Kai, and for all the guardians yet to come, the forest was more than a place. It was a living, breathing testament to the power of nature, of wisdom, and of the human spirit. As Kai took his first steps as the new protector of this magical realm, the breeze whistled through the trees, carrying with it the whispers of generations past. The enchanted forest was a legacy, a treasure passed from hand to hand, heart to heart, and it would endure as long as there were those who believed in the magic of nature and the unbreakable bonds of wisdom and love. Part 8, 770, words, total story 5450 words.